Hi, everyone. Welcome to Awaken Hidden Truth with the sound of bird.
A particularly special bird.
Yes.
We
Most of
mentioned
the time when we
that
go on the
bird
journey,
is a silent mentor.
mhm, so people are curious.
He
People want
probably
to
could
see.
not find his nest if you looked.
Yeah, I don't think I can find.
But the point is why would they be looking in on you or being on this radio show? Who and what is that bird? Why is it there? Hmm. Most people never even think to ask. They don't even think of such things, see? So they never find answers.
So it's like helping, sending out the energy.
It's someone who is stationed outside of Earth's atmosphere right now. They can appear in any form, anywhere, without the limits of time and space, distance, speed of light, magnetism, or anything else on them. There's beings like that manage and keep everything worlds intact and spinning around suns and galaxies and holes between dimensions and keep it all in place.
It's wonderful. Scott, the more I'm awakening, the more I'm awakened, the more I could feel the love of the universe, the love of source, and the love of every being, how much they
Just the
love
biggest
us.
trouble is getting us to be like that, to
Mm.
respect, because nobody makes any real progress in life, whether they're from another planet, they can get around the universe in spaceships between galaxies. I know friends of mine that can do this, that respect me and I respect them. It doesn't mean that I uh, abuse them or use them or try to take up their time unnecessarily or anything like that. The beings that are out in the universe that Earth people do not yet know about are destined to know about them. They have no idea what's coming to this planet. Not yet. But it's being prepared for sure. So I
I'm
wonder,
enjoying
I wonder
listening to the bird.
what the little, I wonder what the little channel of the bird is doing for the benefit of those people who will watch this radio show recording of our journeys out of body beyond the earth, which is public, it's for the whole world. And what you're doing now isn't destined to stay this limited. I mean, it's not limited, but it's destined to expand a great deal.
Yeah, and for people to understand, the bird often comes when we go on the journey as a group or when we do the radio show. Almost every time, I would say.
Well, you might say that that's a presence of a silent mentor here, while at the same time, the same silent mentor as a personification, a projection of a form standing out in space with Turellian waiting for us.
Mhm.
People on Earth don't think this way. They don't respect life like they believe they do. They don't respect animals or trees or birds. People love pets, but they also slaughter animals too. It's
Correct.
kind of like being a hypocrite, kind of like being caught between a rock and a hard place, between being kind and sadistic at the same time. And then there's the respect of not just life on Earth, but life out in the multi universe, out in multidimensional creation. Life on hundreds and hundreds of millions of planetary systems out there. And people on Earth are destined to one day be able to respect all that. Otherwise, they can't have the God they think they're going to have. There's a requirement. It's required that people on Earth, no matter how unconscious they are now, become aware of their purpose for existing. Why they are running a physical body on Earth with no memory, or little, of what they did before this life. So people think, well, this is the only life I have. A lot of people are afraid to remember other existences they've lived because they lived and died, lost loved ones, maybe planets blew up, maybe they were killed in some violent way. But they didn't die. They just had to, eventually, they're compelled to get another body and figure stuff out. Earth is not a normal planet. We've talked about this a lot. And it bears repeating because new people will be hearing these shows all the time. And they have to have a bridge from where we talk, from starting out at zero. They don't remember anything, but they know, like Mooney mentioned in our group session, our private group session on Wednesday, how he became to know me, what the series of events were 8 or 9 years ago that brought him to, for us to not only be good friends, but so that I could help guide him in certain ways for his own benefit, because he's really guiding himself in a way. You just have to mirror the higher nature of a being that they've forgotten or they're afraid to remember. And then once it starts surfacing, they begin to know things for themselves. And that's really kind of neat. I really like that.
Yeah.
So I'm publishing 2 more books. I spent years putting it off. Probably a lot of people think I didn't even write the next 2 books of the Parallel Time Trilogy, but they were written years and years ago. The Sayres Agenda was written after the Parallel Time Trilogy was written. The Emerald Doorway was written long before the Sayres Agenda. And now that the first book of the Parallel Time Trilogy is out, in the next month, maybe a little more, both of the sequel books will be published. 3. It's a trilogy. The books are
Scott,
published. I wanted to
yeah.
mention the books are published. Hold on to your thought. Don't lose it. The books are published in 2 categories. And I had to do it this way. I had instruction from Turellian and other beings I work with, not from Earth. For the good of people, they had to be published in 2 formats. 1, nonfiction. Mind, body, spirit, UFO extraterrestrials. And 1 fiction, action adventure. So there's a bridge for people to what's revealed in these books, which is not native to Earth for the most part. So that's why there's a glossary of characters and terms in the back of my so-called science fiction books. They aren't. But it's there so people can understand terms and technologies and beings and things they've never heard about on Earth and have a reference to use to get deeper into it. So all the books have a glossary of characters and terms in them. The Sayres Agenda has this too, and techniques at the back for people to use so they can begin to remember and recall what they were made to forget. It's just that simple. I can't convince anybody of this. I don't even try. I just put it out in the world and let them raise their vibration. And as they wake up, they'll want to know more. And then they'll cross paths with beings that can help them do that. That's the way it works. Now, your question.
Not really a question, but I just want to tell people that many Thai people now having experiences, direct from with the Hue. They could hear the sound from men and women, sending Hue in the space all the time. And they start having, but they are having direct experiences from your work, from your books. Because some Thai people, they don't even read English, but they put the books under the pillow, like what you recommend them to do.
Yep.
And now,
Yep.
and now they having experiences. And from the very start, you don't have books in the bookstore, right? So I told people how to get your books. And now, because so many requests, the bookstore here in Thailand, in Bangkok, I don't know if you can see.
If you hold it very still.
Yeah,
Okay, just hold it
on
right.
the bookshelf now.
You can see it has its own bookshelf in a big bookstore in Thailand. I think it's a Japanese
Yeah,
bookstore.
yeah.
It has books of all the kind of books in it. And that's a bookstore that has my books on its own table, like Harry Potter or any other books. But it's a good beginning. It's taken many
It's
years to get it to this point.
Life is convenient. You can get the books from Amazon or from online, but in the same time, if you can have your books, if people can order books, many orders from bookstore, you can have his book ready on the shelf too, which
I
is
know,
very
I know.
convenient too. Just go
Right,
and pick up.
right. But people can also get them from Amazon and ship.
Yeah.
But there's no Amazon in Thailand.
Mhm. There is,
There's
but
no there's
cannot
no
order.
there's
Yeah.
no print on demand facility from Amazon in Thailand.
Yeah. Yeah.
But people can still get the book because a company called Ingram Spark, not promoting them, distributes to bookstores. Amazon prints on demand in different countries and distributes online. There are 2 different things.
Hmm.
So as a publisher, I have to work with both companies because otherwise people in France and Germany and Thailand can't get the books. It costs like $60 US to ship a 1 pound book to Germany from the US. It can't be done. It's impossible. So nobody stockpiles books anymore and then ships them out to people unless you just want to distribute to the United States, because then and even the mail charges are going up in the States. So the print on demand facilities in different parts of the country allow people to order in, say, France. It's printed there, the same books, same materials, and shipped locally. That's how that works.
Yeah, and I want to share one more thing. Your books is about the energy books, you know. Many people said when they see your book, it's like the book is calling them, you know, calling attention for them to have a look and to buy and get them. This what experience with Thai
Okay,
people.
let's clear something up for people. The reason I suggested for people, when we do these hotel meetings, and there's 90 some people at one of them,
Mm.
and I take them out of their bodies and I get them to go to sleep just like they do every night, but not asleep consciously. And then they start to have these experiences. And you are very good at translating English into Thai for them. So when we go on the journeys, I take them a certain way and then you translate it into Thai. And it's worked out very well. The reason I suggested they put the books under their pillow is because until we get a much larger source of funds, and people are being worked with when they're out of their bodies at night to do this, for this work. They know who they are. Eventually they will approach me or contact me because they're being prepared to do this for their own good. Really, truly, I mean that. Is because when they put it under their pillow, when they're out of their bodies, out in space, like where we're going to go on this journey today, in a neutral territory, an energy field outside of Earth's atmosphere that has no negative nature, has no nuclear or atomic nature. It is the energy between all things that float in it. And it isn't nuclear. It is energy, but not as it's known on Earth yet, very much. So when they put it on their pillow and they go out of their body, the beings that they meet with, and when they're out of their bodies as the Atma, their true form, they can understand any language. But master teachers will speak to them in Thai. So they're still going to get the experiences, even if they can't read the book. So at some point, as there's more funds available, we will print the books in all the languages. Japanese, Thai, Korean, you name it. All the countries of the world. That's very expensive, and we use a lot of top editors and language translators to do that. And only the most successful authors usually get the opportunity to have their books published in all these languages, because it's a very time-consuming and expensive prospect to do it.
So Scott, talking about the fun, most of the people on earth, when we plan for the future, you know, we plan till like 60, 70, 80, or 90s. They try to save money till the last breath in this lifetime, okay? And then they forgot that the life doesn't end there. Actually, if we can plan further, you know, even the next life, you know, that I mean, not the next life, but the future way far beyond the planet Earth, you know, like whatever you have on this planet Earth now, you cannot take anything with you. So if we can do something to co-create, to
There's
change.
only one thing you take with you when this body ceases to function. Just one thing. What you're aware of. That's it.
Mhm.
No things, no bodies, no money, no Academy Awards, no films, nothing. But the being that runs these bodies is not one of these bodies. People are very confused about that on Earth because they've never been taught anything. And I don't mean just teaching like in faith. Believe this, believe that. They aren't taught from childhood to understand and experience what they are that has never been a physical body, and what survives and is alive despite the bodies dropping away from them or not. That's the journey. That's the real purpose for our existence, is to awaken what that is, fully aware, and then be a co-creator with the source behind all life. That's our destiny. It's the destiny of everybody, even if they don't know it yet. And no one is getting around having to face that responsibility one day. It's a grand destiny, but people have to have the courage to step up to bat and leap into that destiny, because it will not be given to them while they sit there doing nothing.
Scott, you might have to say it again. Your background is in the film industry, right? And your plan to help people more awakening, to awaken more people is like to making a movie, right? If
No,
anyone,
not making a movie. No, a number of them. The Savory's Agenda and the 3 books of the Parallel Time Trilogy, the next 2 books will be published soon, had screenplays written for them. I wrote them
oh,
long before I even published the books. In fact, I wrote the screenplays before I even wrote the books, which is a whole different way of writing. So they've been prepared for feature film development for many
mhm.
years. And it's not that they're not ready or good or qualified. There needs to be enough people awake enough to be, I don't want to say supportive, to be involved personally in wanting to remember who they are, to recover, to change this world. Because people will destroy this planet the way they are. There's no question of it. Fortunately, we're not alone in the universe, and beings from other worlds have stopped us from having nuclear war already, many times since World War II ended. So I don't worry about nuclear war. But people on Earth and governments continue to use that trump card to control them or to intimidate them. Oh, we're going to have a nuclear war. The fact is, certain beings on Earth pushed the button to have a nuclear war in years past, many times, and the launch computers were shut down from space. That's a fact. This really happened. And they're not telling people this because they're afraid to do that. And they're starting to learn how to have the courage to do what's called full disclosure. And that's underway. It's gradual, it's not instantaneous. It's being done so people can stay balanced through the process of learning and experiencing the vast nature of advanced life that's beyond the confines of the surface atmosphere of this planet. Because it's just one little world amongst billions. And most of them are more advanced than we are. Most of them are kind. A few tyrant races out there, but they're held in check. Or they would have come here and taken over a long time ago. So I don't worry about that either. I don't.
Those who those who are listening to our shows, when you're ready to have, to have a very good life, I would say the happiness from inside or serenity can't find any definition on earth. It's got to explain how happy you can be, when you awaken, when you meet with
Well, when
souls.
each being, man or woman or child, is autonomous, meaning that they realize they don't need to get love or demand love from something outside themselves, when they become whole and a whole being unto themselves in their awareness, then they're in a better position to know who to be with if they want a mate relationship or get together with a lost loved one from a million years ago, so to speak. Then both people, both beings have to decide to do that together, and they have to be aware of what they're doing. Or they're just caught in a cycle of being with one mate, one husband, one wife, one lifetime, one kids after another, recycling round and round and round, keeping coming here to get another body when they die because they're afraid. They're afraid to accept their destiny. Their purpose for existing is very grand. And they don't realize this on Earth. So people are afraid to leave their body. They do it every night. When they put the body to sleep, they go out of their bodies. But they have not been taught since they were born how to bring back awareness of what they're doing. So they don't. They don't even remember how to use their higher faculties to do that. They have them, but they're dormant. Some people have been incarnating in bodies, haven't used them for a million years or more. They still have them, but they don't know that they can wake them. They don't even know they exist. So there's a problem for people on Earth. Because people on Earth are not living a normal human life like they believe. If you look at the condition of the world, it's not a very advanced planet. Everything's polluting, and energy's the wrong energy, and tyrants invading other countries, and all this kind of thing. This hasn't gone away in thousands and thousands of years. It's still here. But it is destined to be done away with. People don't know that on Earth yet. So some people are suffering enough. They want an Armageddon. They want the end of the world so they can go to some heaven. What they don't realize is there's no heaven that exists that would take them when they're irresponsible little brats who don't want to do anything but sit there and do nothing to show the source behind all life that they are willing to take on the responsibility to be a co-creator with it, because that's the destiny of each being. That's a pretty grand thing, but people on Earth haven't got a clue, for the most part. Most people on Earth do not. They will one day, whether in this body or another one. It's destined to take place for them sooner or later. I would say that when a person crosses path with the first half of the word human, Hue, it is a vibrational, it's a sound tuned to the omnipresent power that is out among the stars, between all galaxies, between all stars, between all planets. The vastness of space, that is all that black stuff they see in Hubble telescope images, is not black at all. It's just human eyes can't see a high enough frequency. It's a white golden light, and it's not nuclear, it's not atomic. You can't store negative or positive things in it, but you can travel across the stars in it, as in a ship, or out of your body you can travel on that energy, because the spherical shape of what we are as solar atma is made of the same energy as the source, as that omnipresent energy out there, which is not nuclear or atomic. Can't be destroyed, it can't be separated, it can't be blown up. There's no weapons or technology or aliens or on any plane that can ever destroy a single atma or soul. The more advanced races call it atma, because it's like being a whole individual atom of the source itself. And that is not limited to the speed of light or gravity. So that energy that's out there is I'll call it one power. It's a living conscious energy. And we have the ability to connect with it telepathically. So the white core of our being is connected to it anyway, or we wouldn't exist. So we live and move and have our being, what we really are that isn't one of these, by being part of that omnipresent energy field out there. What people, scientists and quantum physicists today call 0 point or toroidal energy is the energy of the universe. But that's not nuclear. It's not atomic. And they're just beginning to understand this on Earth. More advanced races know how to work in harmony with that energy, so they advance very quickly. Speed of light's a joke. That's nothing. There is no limit to the speed of light. People have bound themselves in a stuck place on Earth by thinking that way, because it just goes faster, it just goes into higher frequencies. There's no end to it. Speed of light, and then infrared, ultraviolet, X-rays, and on gamma rays, and all the way up what they call these different levels. It's all the same energy in different forms, on different vibrational frequencies, and it all has a purpose for existing. So when you get out of your body, out among the universe, outside the negative atmosphere of Earth, and I'll talk about that again, it's a better place to start a journey into the multiverse when you're out of your body. You get out of your body every night when it goes to bed, and you put it to sleep anyway. And people don't understand. When they daydream and they imagine something, it is not being done in their brain at all. The gray matter in the brain has no mechanism in it whatsoever. There's a motion picture camera on a motion picture screen that can project what you imagine. But people, in their ignorance, because of how they were brought up, it's not their fault, think that it's coming from here. They're never going to find any answers about the brain, looking in the brain for imagination, because imagination is the ability of a being to see into the multidimensional universe, into that omnipresent field of energy we call the hue, the first sound that started all creation. And they can plug into that and remember and know things because it's a teacher. People pray to it all day, but they don't really know what they're praying to. They call it something, but they don't understand what it really wants from them. It doesn't want them to worship it. It wants them to co-create with it in the right way. It wants them to use the imagination which they take for granted on Earth. It's the highest faculty a being has. But it's the spherical shape of what we are that runs a body connected to the pineal gland, the center of the brain, a DNA body, a genetic entity. And it's that which imagines things when you daydream. And then it projects it through the pineal gland, the brain, and the person thinks they're imagining it from here. They think they're seeing it out of their physical eyes, but they're not. It feels like they are, but they're not. So if I'm sitting in a classroom, I've used this example a lot, and I'm looking at a teacher and I'm bored or something, and I'm looking out the windows at the parking lot of a school, and I'm imagining being on a ski trip that weekend that's coming up, or I'm imagining being with a loved one, or being on another planet. And they see it just without any effort. And they're still in the classroom and they think it's coming from here, so they never give it any thought that it's of value. And they never utilize it. They never work with it. It just comes and goes. So the imagination is actually the ability to see and know things in the multidimensional creation. And all Atmas have this ability, but it needs to be recovered, recalled, awakened, because it's dormant in people on Earth for the most part. A person can have a photographic memory and still be dumber than a brick when it comes to these things. They might be very successful on Earth, but they know nothing about what they should be knowing while they're alive. It doesn't how much money they can accumulate, how many billions. It's worthless in the end, in the short lives we have, unless that person is awake to utilize what they have for their own good and for the good of transforming this planet. Because if we don't do that, then life on Earth will end. And it won't be the first time it's happened on this planet. Fortunately, there are beings now involved, you might call intervening to a degree, in life on this Earth. They don't want to run governments here, or they would have done it by now. They want us to grow up, wake up, and do it for ourselves properly. And they're willing to help us with their technology. It was offered to presidents, leaders of countries, back in the 50s, and it was turned down out of fear. The offer still stands. We got to get the populace on this planet raised in vibration enough to get over their fear with enough courage to step into knowing who they are once again, to leap into it. And there's a way to do that. If I send out the Hue, which I do in the beginning of these journeys, then I'm sending it out on successively higher vibration rates, tones, that connect the various dimensions. And to beings that I work with, master teachers, extraterrestrial races, human, many of them, some not, some but very kind and very advanced. And so they have a vested interest, I would say, in recovering beings that have long forgotten who they are, that are stuck on Earth, that never originated here in the first place. And if that's true, which it is, then where is the original home of the people that live on Earth now? The fact is, no human being ever evolved on this planet anyway, ever. They didn't come out of the primordial swamp as amoebas and grew fish and walked on fish tails and then grew into humans. Dinosaurs were imported to this world as an experiment and then gotten rid of when they were no longer useful. 65 million years ago. Beings have been coming to this world in one form or another, and all that time people have no memory of this history. Secluded, suppressed. And fear is the artificially created mechanism that subconsciously blocks people from recalling who they are and why they exist and what their destiny is. My work is about helping them recover that. It's just that simple. It's the only reason I'm really here. But somebody's got to do it. And no, I don't care if people believe it or not. I'm not here to preach anything to them. I say I will show them how to have their own experience. Sooner or later, they will. And then my words will make sense to them. Not because I'm giving them something they don't already have, but because I'm helping them to recover remembering what it is and how to use it. That's really what my work is about. Whether it's feature films, commercially bridged, or books, which are published. Those screenplays are written, they're ready for feature film development. Yeah, they are.
I heard a lot about people here in Thailand because I do a show in Thailand. They said life after awakening, after they go on many journeys and read your books. They said life is much better, happier, and lighter. They don't have to carry much stuff like before.
Because they're letting
so
go
happy.
fear.
Yeah.
Now, if all you do is pay attention to the war in Ukraine, you're just going to be depressed. But don't think that's the end of the world, because it isn't. Some people have to learn some hard lessons on this planet, and they're in the process of learning those lessons, whether they like it or not. So look at it this way. When COVID first came around, people hoarded toilet paper and paper towels and created shortages that could have destroyed life on this planet. People created those shortages, not governments, because people panicked out of fear. So manufacturing had to be stepped up, and shipping increased, and governments had to step in to stop people from creating such shortages that there wouldn't be any trucking, no shipping, no nothing. Everybody would die just from that. So if you think about extraterrestrials, human and otherwise, coming here and landing, how do you think people will react to that without being properly prepared first? They may say they want to meet them, but I guarantee you that most people on Earth who are looking for rides on spaceships right now, if one landed and a man and woman got out and said, come aboard, they'd run the other way in terror. They wouldn't even know why they're running. Their subconscious would just make them run. So that's got to be dealt with, the subconscious fear, what they're not aware of, that influences their nervous system to make wrong decisions. This goes for leaders on this planet, everyone, and religious leaders. They need to drop that subconscious fear. They're not going to make any progress or really help anybody else make progress on this world, no matter what they believe. They need to remember who they are first. People talk about being a soul, but they haven't got a clue what it is or even what it looks like. Why don't you show people what it looks like? Which is back there on your wall, or right there. Because on the Emerald Doorway, the first book of the Parallel Time Trilogy, for the first time in any book or anything on this earth, it shows you what you look like. And it's not what people think. Hold it still, please. There. Now, if you look at this, it has a white core. And it goes through the spectrum of light, from white to yellow, bright white yellow, then to orange to red to green to blue to violet to lavender. Is a golden aura around it, or energy field, what's called a toroidal field, just like a planet has. Each being looks like this that runs a body. And this here in the center, that is what the source looks like when you go to it. And we're the same thing as it, on a smaller scale, like a drop in a mighty ocean of it. When you start waking up what that is, you begin to remember everything. It's as simple as that. If you can't remember what you are that is in the body, you're not going to make very much progress. So we want people to wake up while they're still alive, so to speak. Thanks, Pari.
From my experience, once I start remembering, this is how I look. And then I will start remembering all my past experiences, in many planets, not life on Earth only, but life in many planets and different planets,
Yeah.
And it's way beyond to the upper worlds.
And people don't know about the upper worlds. They hear of heavens. Different religions teach different things. Or the Buddhists will talk about a void. They think that's where God is, and there's nothing beyond it. But this is not correct. It's no insult to Buddhist monks. They're often very disciplined people, a lot of hard workers. But if they aren't taught there's anything to imagine beyond it, they'll never go there. It's very simple. So if you want to get into the upper realities, which is where you came from originally, before you went into the lower worlds of time and space and matter and got stuck in them, then you have to at least have a way to imagine what it looks like or remember what it was like in order to go there. Because the imagination sent telepathically into that omnipresent field outside the atmosphere of Earth connects to the source. And when you do that, it connects to you. And it's actually that one power that you ride on to go back to that source. So often we'll go above the void known to Buddhist monks and into the higher realities in order to begin to recover who we are and bring it back to Earth, back to the physical body. When people have dreams at night, they're not in their body. It doesn't matter if they measure REM speed or RAM speed or hallelujah speed or alpha speed, sleep, or whatever they call it. They're just seeing a brain function, eyes fluttering of the Atma connecting to that brain to try to feed, to try to get what it's experiencing back to this body that grew up on Earth with no training about any of this at all. Zero. None. So they have to somehow get this body, this conscious, enlightened enough to accept receiving a much higher awareness of experience. And it's when you bring back a memory from other worlds, you don't store it in the brain. It can't handle it. Human brain on Earth doesn't know very much in one lifetime. But the being running that body can know everything. And it needs to condition that body and brain to be able to accept it. This is the humble part. Humble to your own nature as a part of this source we call God. People call God without really knowing what it is. They think it's so bright and so brilliant and so far away they can never get to it. And if they believe that, they never will.
Scott, it is so important to use the right imagination because everything in the universe created from our imagination. But because people on Earth use the wrong imagination, that's why we are in the negative world, like the way we are now. So the way you guide us with the use the right imagination, that can help you get out of this trap.
It's the only thing that will help you get out of this trap. There is no other thing that will do that. Doesn't matter how faithful you are or what you believe. If all you have is faith, then you die. All you've got is belief. If you have faith coupled with real direct experience, knowing well ahead of time before you die where you're going to go and what it's like, that's enlightenment. That's what people want. But most people are afraid to actually do it. So it's the subconscious sphere they're not aware of that needs to be done away with. And there are beings and technologies, even in our galaxy, that can do this, that know about it, know how to do it. Even in the physical universe, there's master teachers that can help people do that without the technology. But that's very rare. Very hard to get a master teacher to work with you one-on-one and appear in your room at night and teach you. Okay? But such things exist. It's just not very much of it going on Earth amongst people who aren't ready for it. Because master teachers will not waste their time with people who will not appreciate it or respect it or use it. They will not. So we got to get the vibration in people on Earth higher first, and that's easy. It's not hard. There's one power, and if you're awake with that power, it will flow through you in huge volume. It can transform planets. I've seen it before in other worlds. Earth is unique because in its history, the poles would flip every 100,000 years, destroy all life on the surface, raise new land masses from the ocean, and sink the ones that are there. And if you can't get off the planet that time, bye-bye. And this has happened many times on this planet. And until recently, we were in what was called a golden age to an iron age, a time of peace and tranquility and enlightenment, then a silver age a little more negative, then a copper age a little more negative, and then an iron age, which is very negative, like the one we're in now. But that's created because people and governments and religions are making decisions based on fear. Fear is negative. It's an artificially created implanted emotion, not a real emotion of a human being. And it influences them to make decisions that are always, each and every time, incorrect. Because when you put out negative stuff, the law of the physical universe, just the physical universe, is that what you put out has an equal and opposite reaction to what you put out to you. So nobody escapes abuse of life because they make decisions based on fear. No one. They get themselves into a corner that no one can help them get out of. And often they're destroyed in a quite dramatic way. And this is for all the people on Earth, if they're consistent in wanting to do things from fear. Fear is a wrong decision maker. You don't want to use imagination in a negative way because that's what you'll get back. If a person learns how to drop the addiction to focusing on fear, let it go. They start functioning in the way they're meant to as a co-creative being, imaginatively, with the source behind all life. And that can change everything, even entire planets. So the people from other worlds who know this are endeavoring now to get people headed in this direction. If they weren't there, people on Earth would have already blown this planet up in nuclear war long ago. So I think if people really ponder what I'm sharing with them now, it will resonate like ringing a bell, like they once knew it. Somewhere back in their consciousness, they used to know this stuff. And somehow they were made to forget it, all of it. So the awareness of this is still in each being, but it needs to be somehow stimulated to come to the surface. A being needs to do some effort, although it's effortless in a way, but because it doesn't take negative effort to make this work. Negative effort, as in trying too hard, just puts out negative energy and it won't happen. So you have to let go. Meditation is meant to help people stop the mind and emotions, calm them down and still them. But that's only the first step. After that, the creative imagination has to be actively exercised so they can travel and bring back awareness of what they're doing. And that brings enlightenment when they're out of their bodies at night back to their body and consciousness on Earth. And they become a channel for this omnipresent power. And it starts to change things. There are hundreds of billions of beings out there that have a focused decision they've made to change this planet. If it was left up to 7 billion unconscious people on this world, they would have annihilated themselves already. But it's not up to us because we don't have the right as unconscious beings on this planet to destroy this world in nuclear armaments that would negatively affect beings in parallel dimensions and other realities, which humans on Earth don't know anything about yet. They've long forgotten this, or they would never think about building nuclear bombs in the first place. Very important. So the only thing we take with us when this body ceases is what we're aware of, nothing else. So we want to be aware of what's in the other worlds, and particularly what's in the higher realities. The void, known to certain esoteric groups, is a pure energy field, but it's a barrier between the lower worlds of time and space and what are called the pure positive upper worlds. There's no negative nature there at all. And yet, out of long history of hundreds of billions of years, this whole lower dimensions has been run in a way, you might call it a failed experiment. Meaning the experiment of good and evil. You know, get evil down there, cattle prodding people to light a fire under their butts so they'll learn spiritual logic quickly and run in the right direction. But what it ended up doing was trapping people in the passions and indulgences in bodies, and they've long forgotten what they are. Which is fine, except they should be kept in balance, because otherwise a person's life is kind of wasted. They live a whole life making babies and doing what they're doing, and they pass away with very little other awareness than what they were taught from a university or school on Earth. Nothing about other worlds, nothing about the universe, nothing about what they were made to forget. So they don't remember. So when this kind of work crosses their path, it's all about, gee, wow, what's on that book? I used to know that. I know I used to know it. And they start to recover who they are. That's as much as can be said on that, clearly and succinctly. What people do with it is up to their heart and their own motivation. It's not up to me. Any questions? Anything you wish to share?
No, ready to go on the journey.
We're going to go on a journey, and what we do, since this is public for the whole world because of the grace of Pari, because of her kindness, because she's a co-creator with me and other beings to help bring a higher energy field into this negative atmosphere of this planet. The reason for that is simple. All the bad things that have ever been done to anyone in the history of this planet, everything, animals, suffering, people killing each other, is stored in the atmosphere. It does not leave the atmosphere of this world. It's set up this way so that if people create negative things, they're surrounded by it in their atmosphere. And negative thoughts and feelings go out from a human being in micro voltages, wavelengths, and they bounce off the ionosphere just like a radio wave, and they go all over the Earth. So when you're on Earth, if you learn how to drop fear and any connection to it, then you have a field of energy around you that's safe. You'll never get into trouble. You won't cross paths with tyrants. You won't be in a war. And you can live on Earth in a productive, constructive, uplifting manner, which is what we're meant to do. You say, where do I get this awareness from? Where does it come? From plugging into that omnipresent field of power and awareness that's out in the universe, just like everybody else can. They can drop fear, they can do this. When we do this, I begin with the first half of the word human because it is not something that is owned by anyone on this earth. And if they ever try to claim they own it or possess it, they are the biggest fools in eternity. Because this omnipresent energy will not tolerate anybody trying to pretend that they control it. It didn't get originated on this planet. It wasn't invented by any being in history. It is ancient as the source of all life itself. And it's been exported to all the worlds and all the dimensions. Nobody owns it. Nobody can possess it. It isn't nuclear energy. It's not things. It's not DNA. It's not bodies. It's not weapons. It's not spaceships. It's not any of that. It supports everything people imagine. Planets and moons and suns and stars and galaxies and multi-dimensions float in this other ether. The more advanced races understand that non-nuclear energy and how to work with it. So they are very advanced. I begin by sending out the Hue in order to connect to certain friends from out of town, as I call it, people from off-world, master teachers that generally have not even been known on this planet to any people in its history. Some, a few. But even those few are not publicly known, for the most part. Ambassador Turellian is the ambassador of the Se Ray's race, not to Earth, to the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, which is stationed near the galactic core of this galaxy on a planet called Satnam 1. It's a planet 4 times bigger than Earth. It has 3 moons the size of Earth, all with life on them, no polar ice caps. And they circle 3 suns. It's called a trinary sun system. The Se Rays, as a race of human beings, much taller than us, 18 to 25 feet tall, did not originate on Earth, but they were responsible over 1 billion years ago for seeding human and humanoid and other DNI high advanced forms of bodies and bringing them up in evolution to the point where the being, the Atla we showed earlier, can run higher faculties of, let's say, divine awareness, God awareness, source awareness, prime creator awareness is a better way to put it, through that form in each of the planes where you find you're running a body. We are meant to be caretakers or custodians of all the worlds we originally helped create long ago, before we started incarnating in bodies. Which means you, the real you, cannot be measured in terms of time and space, how old it is. Because the real you existed before time and space was made. It's one of the greatest enlightening things I can ever share with people on any world, in any reality, in any dimension. Because they have no idea anymore on Earth any of this. They can recover it. And that process from outside of this world is underway. So I'll begin these tones now, and we'll go on a little journey. I always ask that people, whoever they may be, imagine first someone they love and respect and they're grateful whatever that is in their life, a person, place, or thing, but it needs to be genuine. It's like something they imagine that makes them smile inside. And that opens a doorway, a faculty, through the pineal gland, the center of the brain. It opens a doorway from you, the real being, to begin to have conscious experience, to remember and recover conscious experience beyond the limits of the lifetime you grew up with. So we're going to go basically put the bodies into the trance state advanced races call sleep. Because the body goes to sleep, that means it's being run on automatic, heart working, blood pumping, lungs breathing. while you're gone. The Atma you, the white core of that being, remains a link, continues to maintain a link to the body to run it, and can be any distance from the body, even in the highest realities beyond the void. So first do that, close your eyes, lay down on the carpet or on the bed or sit in a comfortable chair. And just close your eyes, because when you do that, you're turning off the brain. The whole faculty in the brain just turns off as soon as you close your eyes. That has to do with taking information and light from your world around you on Earth. And so when you close your eyes and you start to imagine what I'm sharing with you all, you begin to see it in your imagination. But that is not coming from your brain, because that goes to sleep. There are beings who help in this work, to help each person that's sincere that goes on these journeys, to have their subconscious spheres temporarily shut off so they can experience wonderful things and bring it back to Earth. This begins to give them dominance over negative things, and it's a natural process. So I'll begin those tones now. You. What's gone on there is to make a connection to the dimensions in the lower worlds. That would be physical, astral, next heaven up, causal, mental, etheric, the void, known to certain esoteric groups on Earth, and then the Atma plane, the first plane of the higher realities, which everyone originated from before they started incarnating or running bodies in the lower worlds long ago. And then there's the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, which has been recently built in the higher worlds to accommodate master teachers and beings called silent mentors. And these are the wondrous beings that run the mechanics of creation. They hold planets together and have them circle suns, have to do with gravitational fields, the position of galaxies relative to each other, interdimensional doorways between parallel and higher dimensions. They maintain this. Until recently, they were never involved in teaching individual Atmas or souls like us. In the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, both those orders of beings are working together for the first time in a place where experimentation can be done to see how to implement the end of evil as an experiment in the lower worlds of time and space, and that is underway. To know this for yourself means, of course, that you have to travel there, out of your body, which you do every night anyway. So these journeys help people begin to know how to imagine places they've long forgotten how to imagine, so they can go there. Because what is required by the omnipresent energy that is out there that supports all life is that you imagine correctly in it, and then it's the power that manifests what you imagine. We don't do that. We move and have our being in this one power, and we're made of it. But we aren't the power that brings things into manifestation, as some people mistakenly believe on Earth. They mistakenly believe it. There is a co-creative reciprocal relationship between what people call divine spirit and themselves. The source behind all life, that more advanced races call prime creator of this source, does not require that we worship it. It never did. What is required is that we discover and awaken how to respect it, each other, and all life that exists in the grand multidimensional creation, because it is required. So it's very beneficial for people to begin the journey to recover their capability to know such things. Imagine being a spherical being like the one that Pari showed you, hovering near the ceiling up above where you live. And you're looking down on your body. This is just like daydreaming. Just everybody does it without effort, without realizing what it is they are doing. Daydream. Just imagine being there, looking down on your body, resting peacefully asleep. You are consciously aware. The body is the body. It is in a trance state called sleep. You look out through the walls of where you are and you can see your entire area around your house. You can be up in the atmosphere at 10,000 feet, hovering as a sphere, and look and see the entire city below you. If it's night, it appears bright as daylight, and yet you know it's nighttime. If it's daytime, it appears the same way to an Atma, to you. You can be in outer space, hovering at a distance from Earth, around a very special few beings who have been waiting for us to join them. And when you look on Earth, you realize it has polar ice caps. You can see the oceans and the land masses you're familiar with. And you can see the barren moon with no atmosphere, or very little. And it is rotating around the sun, but the axis of this moon does not turn at all. That is not normal. In fact, for it to sit there and not turn is not an equilibrium of gravitational forces between the Earth and the sun. So there's a mystery there to solve about why it's that way, and how it will be changed in the future to be a living world turning on its axis, like it should be. And you can see the stars in space, billions of them. They're made up of 3 basic categories of stars: blue giants, yellow suns of many sizes bigger than the one we call Sol in our solar system, and either red giants or red dwarfs. And you'll see these colors in the stars that are out in space. Most of, or many of, the suns that are in the Milky Way galaxy have trinary or binary star systems their planets revolve around. Earth only has one sun. People take for granted that they're all like that out there. They're not. Astrophysicists, astronomers, they know today that most of the suns out there are trinary or binary. Proxima Centauri, Alpha Centauri, these are a binary star system. 2 suns with planets revolving around them, 7 light years away. I think that's about right. When they speak in terms of light, they're measuring something that physical eyes on Earth can only detect at 286,000 miles per second or so. But this is not what light does. Light doesn't only go that fast. It continues faster at a higher vibration up through the parallel and higher dimensions. There are no limits to it, never has been any. So people on Earth are really in the dark, closeted themselves into this limiting concept of you can't go faster than the speed of light, as their physical eyes can determine it. You get outside the body, out in space as the Atma, and you can see for yourself there are no limits to it. If people want to know the secret of anti-gravity and all of that and how to work it, as some people do on Earth, that doesn't mean they have the freedom to travel the universe, even if they have the craft to do it, because our solar system has been quarantined by more advanced races that don't want us going out among the stars with nuclear weapons, planting foreign country flags or U.S. flags or Russia or Chinese flags on these other territories. That is not a future anybody on Earth will ever experience, because space is already occupied by more advanced races primarily. So we're going to have to learn how to live along in a good way with them. As full disclosure becomes more eminent and prominent in the awareness of people on Earth, the day will come when people will without any question know that advanced races in countless numbers exist beyond this atmosphere of this planet. And Earth world will change quite dramatically, virtually overnight. In space, you're hovering around a friend of mine. His name is Ambassador Turellian. And he's showing you a body form made of pure energy that looks perfectly human, bare feet, kind of a gown, kind of slightly curved, curly, not curly, but wavy blonde hair down to his shoulders, big blue eyes, looks like a Greek god. He's got his two hands up with his thumbs up with a golden white bright light around them. And he's standing in space. But if you look above him, you're going to see a spherical being, the real Ambassador Turellian, running that body. The body he's showing you looks human, but it is pure energy. And then you're going to discover that you are a spherical being hovering in a circle around him. I am there, just to the right, standing to the right of Turellian, who's much taller than the body I'm showing you. The body I'm showing you appears to be about 36, perfect, flawlessly healthy, trim, as is Turellian. Every single visitor that comes out here as the Atma from their body manifests the same type of 36-year-old roughly body, human, male or female, but flawless, perfectly healthy. And it's like you're breathing in the vacuum of space, but it's not a vacuum. You don't feel heat or cold. You can see the sun in the distance and the moon circling the earth from here. But the energy you're floating in, if you look around you now, is a white golden field of light everywhere. Below, to the side, above planet Earth, around the moon, off to the sun, around the stars, in between everything that floats in the Milky Way galaxy, and out into the vast darkness. You would think, as you look at a Hubble telescope image, that it's dark and black. It isn't, except to human eyes. But out there, the vastness of this one energy is infinitely bigger than the little galaxies that float in it. And it is that one primordial, omnipresent Hue energy, first half of the word human, that we live and move and have our being in. And it is that energy you connect with telepathically, which is not psychic, by the way. It is much higher than that. It is a form of communication between an individual and the source behind all life, through a medium, a conscious living energy. And when you discover or awaken how to commune with it, it knows where you are and what you're doing. It begins to bring you home so that you can return and share all you've learned in countless lives and help to be a co-creator with it for the uplifting benefit of all life. So we're destined to return to that source, not as just childish people, but as beings who are awake and aware of their responsibility Absolute freedom comes with it absolute responsibility in what we do and choose to do with the creative imagination, either negative or positive, or a blend of both. People on Earth are enmeshed in doing both at the same time every day, and they're trapping themselves with it. It's like putting out to the omnipresent energy, I want good and bad. And so it gives you what you want. So you see, it's not its fault that we're here. And it's not our fault entirely either. There are beings who are suppressive out in the universe back before the last war ended 500,000 years ago in our galaxy, that captured and implanted and tortured people and stuck them in bodies on Earth like political prisoners. That kind of thing has been stopped permanently. There hasn't been any abductions by little grays of people on Earth for 20 years or more. And a lot of people on Earth don't yet realize this fact. This was not stopped by people on Earth, by the way. This was done by a conscious choice of a mass number of people, beings, out in the universe in order to prevent tyrants from coming into our solar system anymore. So they don't. If you want to dwell in fear of negative extraterrestrials, you will waste the rest of the days of your life. It's pointless. Completely pointless. For a person to experience what their heart has sought all their lives, and to return to the awareness of what they are as a being and not a body, they have to simply let go of imagining and dwelling on fearful things. It's a choice. When you look at yourself, you are a spherical being in space. The entire space we're in outside of Earth is lit up because of us. Turellian's this white golden light around his fists and thumbs is putting a field of energy around us out in a big circle that comes from the fifth reality above the void. It's a higher, pure energy of the hue, so no negative nature or beings or technology can penetrate this whatsoever from any direction, in any way. And while you're out here, you'll see you have a body that looks to be about 36, which you're showing to each of us, but flawless. It is made of energy, and it's a body that can perceive this environment in space and transmit that awareness back to the core of your being as the Atma hovering above it. There are other beings here, master teachers, but you can discover more about that for yourself if you ask. One of them is named Master Ramu. He's standing there to the left side of Turellian. He's holding a crystal staff about 6 feet tall, made of quartz. He doesn't have to carry it, but it's like his symbol. He does it. It's a tool. And his body is bronzed of skin, short cropped curly beard and curly hair, black maroon robe, sandals. And he teaches people with that staff and other devices to leave subconscious fear behind. He won't do it for anyone unless they ask. Free will, you know. And off to the right of Turellian, in this circle we're surrounding, is a being named Master Opelum. And he looks to be about 6 feet tall, with long, shiny black hair to his shoulders, slightly pointed ears, emerald green eyes, and pale blue skin. He has webs between his fingers down near the base and his toes, and he has little gill slits under his neck. You wouldn't even know they're there unless he lifts his neck. And this human race evolved with the ability to breathe underwater or on land, on a mostly water-covered world. And that world is called Oceania. It's on the other side of our galaxy, in the third higher parallel dimension of the physical universe. It's not astral, and it's not there if you went there in a ship. You'd have to raise the molecular time rate of the ship upward, and then you'd see it. It's one of the mysteries of the multiverse that people on Earth have yet to discover. There are other beings in a big sphere of beings surround all of us, like on a horizontal level surrounding Turellian, who's simply holding a focus point so we don't get lost in the wonders of the universe and not make any progress. And those beings are master teachers, and they are men and women from many worlds and many races who teach in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. And again, that is located above the void known to certain esoteric groups on Earth. It is in fact above the first plane above the void called the Atla plane, between the sixth and fifth plane in its own special parallel dimension. It's a huge floating landmass, circular, and it floats in a cobalt blue light. There are no moons, no suns, no stars there. In the upper worlds, no. Just these manifestations that float, that beings maintain, that you could walk on them, you can smell flowers, you can have a delightful time, but it is for the teaching of beings to be co-creators with the source. In a circle around Turellian, you look out among the stars and you realize you're looking at a white golden field of light. You can see that from above the Milky Way galaxy, you can be above it, around Turellian in a circle. Suddenly you're there looking down, and you can see the whole circling Milky Way galaxy. This huge void is not black to you, but golden white light. And over to the left over there is the Andromeda galaxy. And off in the distance, millions more. And you have the capability to float up in this omnipresent living energy and do what we're doing right now. When you look down on Earth, hovering in space like you are, around Turellian, you see the Earth suddenly shimmer like the mirage in a desert. And the Earth's poles suddenly change. There's no polar ice caps. You're actually seeing into the third higher parallel dimension above the Earth you're familiar with, because we've changed the molecular time rate. This is an energy choice. It's a conscious will decision by certain beings here. And so you'll see that the moon that circles that Earth is alive with a full atmosphere and rain clouds and domed cities with pyramids inside them. And it is turning on its axis, circling Earth, and the sun is in the distance. There is one big continent on that planet from the left hemisphere to the right that winds its way up about a third of the way below the North Pole and continues down to the eastern side of the half of the planet, and it curves down towards the southern pole about a third of the way up and curves up to the western hemisphere. It's a big, big place. And down near the bottom, the one that's about a third away from the South Pole that has no ice caps, it has an upward curving, half moon bay shaped, glowing green sandy beach you can see from space. And there's an ocean off this lower area that surrounds the entire landmass that is glowing with a blue-green light. It's very charged water. And on the other side of the planet, you can see right through it. There's another continent 2/3 the size, which is called Atla, or even here called Atlantis to this day. The continent on the front side is Lemuria, or Mu, because this is an Earth world that has these continents that never sank like they did on Earth, the one you're familiar with 100,000 years ago. When you look at that beach, you feel compelled, drawn to want to put your feet and your hands in that emerald green sand because it is very uplifting. And then you suddenly look down at your feet and you see them wiggling your toes in this emerald green sand, glowing with a foot of green light. About this sand, you pick up in a hand and look at it. And it's made of little round polished emerald crystals that are luminous. And you look behind you and you see this big curve of a Half Moon Bay beach, golden sand, golden white. And standing up to his knees behind you is this 18-foot tall Turellian, with his thumbs up, with the gold light around him, and a big atmosphere hovering above the body form he's showing you. And you realize you are an Atla hovering above the body form you have, playing with this sand. So you can feel what it's like. It's cooling and warm in your hand. It's cooling and warm under your feet. And then the green emerald light comes up your hands and feet, up through the top of your head. You look up smiling. It goes right into the white core of the being Pari showed you earlier. The real you brightens it, and then it spreads out spherically in all directions, lighting up these different layers that surround the white core. Teardrop shape, self-effulgent, self-luminous. These are higher faculties, and it will start to turn some of them on in each layer. From the white core, yellow, orange, red, green, blue, violet, lavender, golden exterior around it, like the spectrum of light. And then it continues beyond you out into the universe, back into the omnipresent energy that we're standing in space, outside of Earth in a higher parallel dimension. And you look inland and you see a brown moss-covered path straight as an arrow through these tall jungle trees, maybe 6 to 8 feet wide, and it goes back and winds its way up to the lower summit of a single snow-crowned mountain, glacier-covered. And there is a huge dome city at its base to the left side. And there are 3 pyramids in the left side of it. An oval blue-green lake. You can see it like you have telephoto lenses. And they have quartz caps and golden sides and little white dome dwellings. The beings that work in that dome city are from the Galactic Alliance. They are from the Say-Rays race and silent mentors as well. You know, remember the guys that run the mechanics of creation? So when you go on one of these journeys, you have the privilege to meet and associate with such beings. It's a safe world. There's no negative nature allowed in this planet. It is protected. And down inland, down this moss-covered path to the left is a white marble floor about a mile in. There's a statue of a woman standing up in it, made of quartz, polished. She has her 2 hands up with her palms out. She's about 10 feet tall. She has what looks like long silver metal hair, but soft. And her eyes are violet, kind of ivory-colored skin, slightly pointed ears. She has a headband on made of gold and a teardrop-shaped faceted emerald stone set in the center of it, right where her eyebrows are. And when you look at her, you begin to see that this woman is moving, but what you're seeing is the image of a woman just inside this crystal. And suddenly you realize that you're looking into this emerald crystal, and you find yourself with Turellian in a vast void within this device. And there's a woman standing with her bare feet, elegant gown. This very same woman with the gold headband, with her 2 hands up. There's a huge golden spherical light around it. And you realize that it's charging that beach we first stepped into. And this green energy is to help you remember what you were made to forget, as far as lifetimes in the lower worlds of time and space are concerned. Beside her appears a man, a little taller. Same kind of violet eyes and silver kind of hair. And this is a couple that come from a planet called Satnam on the other side of the Milky Way. And it is a large planet, larger than Earth, has 3 moons around it the size of Earth, and it is also a trinary sun system. They contribute to this facility on this planet, because this green energy is a place we can go to gather up the energy we need to remember and recall who and what we are and why we exist. When you look up, you realize you're suddenly circling around Turellian, looking down on this woman outside the statue. And you look up and you see a vortex open that's blue-green like water, moving slowly clockwise. And there's 1,000 little tiny blue cobalt stars whirling around an opening, keeping it open. And up through this vortex, on the other side, you can see a floating landmass, massive, circular. You can see it from down here in space outside of Earth, the alternate Earth, the higher Earth. And there's a white, luminous beach surrounding it, and a cobalt blue sky brighter than any sky on Earth. and an ocean that appears to be crashing on this beach, completely surrounding it. But it's made of the same atmosphere energy, just takes on the form of water, but it is not water. There is 6 snow-covered mountains in the center of this landmass. And to the west, down on the lower plateau, is a tall minaret spiral tower, smooth as glass, like blue glass, to a flattened spherical area, comes up to a minaret point. And inside the middle of that flattened area, like a flattened sphere, an oval, is a white alabaster fountain, 15 foot across, scalloped edges, curved. And in it is a white golden shaft of light. And this is the hue that comes from higher realities far above this place. It fills this bowl of this fountain, and it drops over these scalloped edges in a glistening luminous sheet, and drops through the center of this tower and goes through the bottom of the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. The sound here that you hear is millions of men and women's voices singing the hue in perfect harmony on multi-dimensional levels. The light, which is this cobalt blue light, is that the right word, cobalt? I guess it's not really turquoise, but you can't describe it otherwise, but it's much more beautifully blue than anything on Earth. Behind this blue energy is a white golden light. You can see it. It is the hue itself, moving through the planes and dimensions as one omnipresent force, a living force, by the way. It comes from what we call prime creator or source, many dimensions above here. Just being present in this reality, beginning to see just the beginnings of what it looks like, can trigger and help you in many ways to recover your ability to imagine going into the multidimensional universe, to discover and know things for yourself, to recover, remember, recall, awaken. We're going to go out, and if you look at the base of this tall administration tower, it's coming out of a flat, circular, white marble-like floor. And at the edge of it, 100 feet across, are these roadways that are white and straight as an arrow. And they go in every direction like the spokes of a bicycle tire out to that beach that completely surrounds this huge floating landmass. There are no suns, no moons, no stars here. Everything here gives off its own light. It is lit by the beings present in teaching facilities that are in the thousands on this countryside, this botanical paradise. And we're going to go out the western roadway all the way to the end, to the beach. And then you look down and you realize your feet, bare feet, are wiggling in white, luminous, glowing sand. You pick it up and you can see it's made of spherical, polished diamonds that glitter like a diamond, but they're not faceted. The energy moves through your hands and up your feet. It's cool and warm. It goes up the top of your head. You look up smiling, and you're looking at yourself, a sphere, Atma, soul. It goes into that white sphere, brightens it, passes through the layers, and continues out into the ocean that surrounds you in the distance. You find yourself looking down, Turellian in the center, all of us around him, the master teachers, a group of beings around us, and you'll see the beings that formed a sphere around us depart. Several thousand, and they go off into different locations in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. In other words, they tagged a ride with us on their journey to come back to do their round of teaching. Which means those master teachers are now aware of all of you who have gone on this journey. That's a great blessing. And so, you look down and you realize your feet are now a foot deep in this ocean water, luminous. And then we all sink into this ocean, Turellian included, and we go down several miles. Everything is light. And you can see dolphins and whales and other amphibious creatures here. They're intelligent. They come up to you. You can hear them speak to you as if they had vocal cords. You can hear them in your consciousness. And you can simply greet them with friendship. They are teachers. You can breathe under this water. Remember, you have a body form here that's made of pure energy. Looks human, but you can breathe this water. You don't have a problem. You can feel the energy of water around your body. So the Atma you are is able to have experience of this through this form. Then you find yourself hovering above this ocean again with Turellian. And you can look right down through the ocean. It's crystal clear, miles down. And then you see an opening at the bottom of this mighty ocean of light and sound. There's no bottom to it really. But you look and you see that we're passing through what's called the fifth dimension above the void. And we see a fountain there in a botanical garden, surrounded by concentric circles of beautiful plant life, miles wide. And this fountain has the scalloped white edges, and it is standing the statue of a man. And it's a device. Bronzed of skin, about 36, gold bracelets, 2 on his upper arms, white tunic dress from his waist down to his ankles, bare-chested, strong, virile, golden eyes, bronzed of skin, looks like he's from India, but he's not from India on Earth. That man's name is Satnam, and that image is an image of that being that runs this reality. It means true name, first sound, original word, missing from the books on Earth. And his palms are open with the palms down at his sides, flowing this white golden light through the top of the head, through his palms, filling this bowl, which drops down the sides in a luminous golden white sheet of light into the ground. And there's a seat around it, white marble, flat, like a circle, with 12 carved legs holding it up. And it's dropping down behind this into the ground and vanishing. If you wish to, you may simply allow some of this white golden light to enter the being you are as a physical form. You can drink it or just let it pass through you and up into the white core of your being, and then it will go past you on its way to be a benefit to others. It doesn't stop with you. The being that the statue represents, you can see standing at the edge of this 100-foot wide marble floor. A brown moss-covered path winds its way into the distance towards a long snow-covered mountain range, a palatial estate at the bottom of it, and this being is standing there, that's in the statue, with his right hand up in greeting. He knows you're here. You look at this white shaft of white golden light coming down of the statue. Turellian begins to move into it, and we all do, until we realize we're inside. The size of our being doesn't matter. We realize we're in this vast area with a shaft of white golden light pouring down through us. And you look down and you can see the earth. And you can see the earth, and you can see us still hovering there around Turellian. You can see the polar ice caps and the barren moon and the sun in the distance. And you look down and you can see yourself hovering above your body back on Earth where you live. And all you're doing now is allowing the awareness of this journey, which is very vast, to enter the brain through the pineal gland, but it doesn't get stored there. It goes out into a toroidal electromagnetic field, just like around the planet Earth that surrounds your body. And it goes into the same field around the Atma you are, hovering above the body near the ceiling. And it moves through you, widens 2 miles, and then continues out into space. It's always moving through us for our benefit, but we must discover and master how to only imagine uplifting, beneficial things. This is the key to freedom, enlightenment, and true awakening. Remember this, and then sometime when you get the opportunity, once this is recorded, which it is, and put up on Pari's YouTube channel, play it back again a second time, sometime when you can spare a couple hours. You will not be disturbed. Leave the phones off. And the second time you go through it, you'll remember ever so much more. When you're ready, open your eyes.
Thank you, Scott, for the journey.
A lot went into this one, didn't it?
Yes, like you mentioned, we can go on journeys. Even this record, many times you can listen more than one time on each journey. Will benefit you. Yeah.
There are two books, and I always bring them up because if I don't, whoever ever knew will never know about them. This is the Sayre's agenda. This is the planet Saturn in our solar system. These are the ice chunks that make up the rings of planet Saturn. It's known by scientists today. This is a mile-long cylindrical spacecraft. Bridge control here, identical one on the other side. There are no launch bay doors here. These disc-shaped craft are scout craft, about 30 feet wide, and they're entering the center section right here. By changing their molecular time rate, the electromagnetic field around the craft, they pass through another dimension and can enter the hall and land in the hangar bay without going through an open door. This ship is made for going through interdimensional doorways to cover vast areas of space, much beyond the speed of light. This is permanently stationed in the ice rings of Saturn for our protection right now. It's on the front cover. In the back is what's called a special techniques section, which is the only book I know of that people will think of as fiction for now. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. So I know what will happen, and it looks like this. It's a big section. It has a special technique involving the hue from the prologue and one for each of the 29 chapters. There's a glossary of characters and terms in the back of this book. This is the first book of the Emerald Doorway, and there's what Pari showed you earlier on the front cover. This scene takes place 100,000 years ago on ancient Earth. This is a doorway to the fifth reality where Satnam is, and this is the ancient one that comes down through here from a reality far above this. And this master teacher is Ramu. He's got his 6-foot staff there. And this is Kalam, a Caucasian man not from Earth, blue-skinned woman named Melina, hovering on anti-gravitic discs. This is his ship they've come from. It's hovering stationary, and this master teacher is introducing this to these three beings. This being is not human. He is a Dren, and he's in the book. There are illustrations in this book. He's a silica-based creature, not carbon. He comes from planet Oceania, where Opelum does. And he can levitate or fly through the air when his tail from the root to the tip glows like crystal opal in bright sunlight. He's telepathic, he has vocal cords, he has a wife, and he's a master teacher, but he is not human. At this point, 100,000 years ago, these three don't yet know that one of these is hovering above their heads. Down here is what new continents are after the pole shift and destroyed Lemuria and most of Atlantis, which was a continent 2/3 its size 100,000 years ago. New land masses rose up. 24 hours, very violent affair. And except for a volcanic island, which later became the seafaring power on Earth till it was destroyed through the misuse of science 35,000 years ago. So they're being enlightened here. They are Galactic Alliance people. Etis from Oceania. He's a master teacher. He still has this form after 100,000 years. So kind of an immortalized body. That's on the front cover. This is published, and 2 more books in this series will be published in the next month. They were written many years ago, and I finally got the signal right to publish all 3, to get the other 2 published. I'm sure a lot of people thought I never really wrote them, but they were written before this book was published, which was published before this one. So that will help you. You go to Amazon or you go to a bookstore and walk in the bookstore and say, hey, I want to get this book. The bookstore will get it for you. And you can pick it up if it's not on the shelves anywhere in the world. So you can do that.
Yeah, or people can buy ebooks to read too, right, Scott? And and people can visit your website as well, because in your websites there are many videos that you show from your work in the past. Very interesting, and also you can see the characters from your website as well.
Yeah. Well, the videos that are there, go to my YouTube channel, and there are 30 incredible videos with professional narrated voice, beautiful orchestrated music. I don't really spend time or money promoting it too much. I think some of those have 250,000 views on them or something, but it's nothing. And yet, when you go to the website, it says there's nothing you can buy there. You can play the videos, presentations of my work, my presentations done at major conferences in Finland and Norway, or you can find them there and watch them. I don't charge for these things. The only thing that are sold are books. The links to the online retailers at the website under the books link has all the links people need to get any form, hardback, paperback, or ebook. They'll go right to Amazon or wherever they want to go, or to iBooks or whatever. And then they can simply obtain the books if they wish to.
You can check Scott's website under this video. You can click the link.
And when I'm done recording this, I'll put those websites on the video so Pari can put it up. Thank you, Pari, for your courage.
You're welcome. Everyone, see you again next time, too.
See you next time, too. I will say this to everyone. See all lighter.
Bye, Scott.
Bye.